Alright guys, Tactical back again today, hope you're enjoying your Thursday so far, and a couple of interesting topics to discuss today. There was some Twitter drama that went down last night regarding Parasite, JCap, Embos, Dylan Theory that we will discuss here in a second, really talking about Parasite's career in Call of Duty and why he hasn't got the shot to go onto professional teams. As we'll look at in the coming minutes, he's brought up a lot of great talents that are now got onto professional teams and done things that, well, Parasite hasn't got the opportunity to do over the last several years. There's certainly reasons for that, as we will discuss here as JCap talks about, but pretty interesting discussion nonetheless. Also, of course, as we'll get into first, this whole Challengers prize pool debacle that's gone on over the last couple of days. Yesterday, when we talked about this move, like what champs are doing, best of 9 and all that kind of stuff, they released what the prize pool looks like for the online champs tournaments around the world, and that a lot of the top Challengers teams are not particularly happy with the way it is structured, so that only 20% of the prize pool goes to the winning team, which is typically much less than what you'd see in the professional community. They feel like it's, well, giving a free pass and giving some free money to teams that really haven't earned it. So, interesting discussion indeed. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. So first of all, this from Joey Nubsy. I don't need to say anything more on this. Challengers are complaining about this the wrong way, but hopefully this sheet brings some reason to it. I'd love to hear if this seems incorrect. So he brings up this, well, current prize pool for what it looks like for the power rankings, and, well, 50k right now in the US region. A lot of people would prefer it to look more like this, like 100k for the winners, 50k for second, so pretty interesting situation. However, Clayster then comes out in reply to this and says, look, funny to me to see kids complain about their tournament being paid out to top 24 when they wouldn't even sniff the tournament at a normal champ. So, you know, pretty big indictment, right, of how, you know, he's talking about how entitled some of these amateur guys are, because I suppose when you look at it from the perspective of, in a normal year, we wouldn't have, like, an amateur champs, I suppose, back in the CWL. We'd have, like, just the world championships, and if you're a top amateur team, you might be the 12th best team in the world or something. Like, you might be better than a couple of professional teams, but you're still going to go along to the world championship events, and you're not going to get, like, super deep in the tournament and not going to win a huge amount of money. So he doesn't seem to completely buy into these complaints. Joey Nubsy then says, I mean, the distribution is really poor. Disregard the principal and amateur title around it. If you just do some comparisons of who is going to be making money and reallocate that money to the top, it's a lot more fair. Those guys are the future after all. So interesting concept by Joey Nubsy, and I think Clayster has a pretty decent response to this. You've kind of proven the point I was trying to make. You cannot disregard amateur, because that's what the league is for, to grow grassroots talent. There's going to be some kids on a top 16, top 24 team that get paid $500 that will help them to buy a monitor, headset, scuff to compete. And this is an idea that I kind of liked and I talked about yesterday to some degree. The fact that some of these, you know, amateur guys that, okay, yes, they really haven't done much the entire season. They might just qualify through a large task qualifier and going to take some money away, I suppose, from the best amateur teams that have been doing it the entire season. But then again, it at least gives some motivation to these guys, and apparently a lot of people have, like, heard the fact that top 20 or top 24 gets paid out in these events and are now thinking, like, well, yeah, damn, we might as well compete and give it a go. And if they do win that, that might give them the spark to take it to the next level. Maybe they don't have the best setup, best equipment, as Clayster's saying. They can use that money to invest towards that, and that really does help grow the grassroots, you know, esport that Call of Duty was a while ago. And, you know, it feels like it's been somewhat lost, really, with the CDC. But honestly, I kind of think this price structure definitely goes back to that to some degree. This isn't a tournament for XXX Sniper Boy 24 to try and get a pair of Astros. This is their finals to repay the work the Challengers have done all season and incentivize them to keep playing until they reach the top and make this a living. You're missing the point. 10k for winning and one to 2.5k each Challengers Cup, which they've had like 12 of them, is a nice little paycheck to repay the work that Challengers do. That's potentially 30k for being good in an AM league. That's more than enough, says Clayster. So interesting discussion here for sure. And then of course he follows up with this. I remember when I didn't have to beat any pro teams to get a check. Oh wait, my mentions have been blowing up all day because 1% of the prize pool is given to 17th through 24th. That's 8% of the prize pool to potentially inspire multiple players to try and go pro. You're tripping. Be thankful for what you've got and work for a pro spot. There's some more replies here with, you know, Denza coming back on Team War, of course, and then B-Sport Josh talking about it, and Clayster then comes up with it's all big picture, man. I totally understand how AM teams feel like the bottom 8 are stealing their prize pool, but you wouldn't even have a prize pool to begin with if it wasn't for all these lower seeded teams entering them. So definitely an interesting discussion. Clayster seems to be implying that a lot of these amateur guys are pretty entitled in the situation right now, and I thought there's an interesting reply to this as well. I saw from Brian Saints saying that, like, back in the Black Ops 2 days, Of course, Black Ops 2 was an entirely different time, but when Clayster and the Complexity guys were dominating the scene, back then, like, did they even make 30k in an entire year? Like, yes, it's switched up now for sure, but the fact that you can earn a significant, you know, amount of change by competing in an amateur league, I don't really think you can sniff at that too much. However, in following up to this thread, we then got this. So, in replying to this one from Clayster, Parasite comes back with, of course, in the amateur scene, dude, this is a horrible take. Top 16 to top 24 teams are people that still compete on and off that are terrible or stopped playing halfway through the year because they were so bad they didn't see a point. I'm not saying they didn't have the equipment, more so it helps mitigate the damage buying those things did. It helps propel their interest in competitive COD more than a little something to that everything, so that everything they did isn't for nothing. Parasite says a lot of these people on these teams didn't even do anything. Shoxy comes back with, I've been playing since all year, Christopher, and bro, in reality, nobody after top 16 deserves a single dollar, and it's crazy they think they do or people think they do. I don't even put my glasses on these homestands till we're playing for top 8. He comes back with, if you were in my position and I were in your position, we would swap opinions, but it is what it is. If I was in your position, I'd have a job, says Parasite. And this is where it kicks off. So Dylan Theory comes back with, not throwing shade or anything, but you haven't won and plays top 4 consistently all year, and without a stream blessing, can barely afford rent. Then Bose comes back to it, honestly, it all kind of kicks off. Bose says this, stop, you know, sucking, bro. He's been blackballed, you know this. So blackball kind of means like there's I guess a pro team conspiracy against having Parasite in the league and deciding to pick him up and play with him. Bose and Parasite played in the World War II days that we're looking in just a second. So this tweet is, you know, pretty interesting. Of course, Bose since deleted this one. Cap says, you really think this? Bose comes back with, yes, lol, he has not been better than most players for like ever now. You know, if we're going to talk facts, let's talk it. His actions outside the game do play a part in the fact that he's not been picked up. Have you been watching a lot of COD these last few years to judge each and every top pro and amateur player and decide that, or are you just saying it because he does? I'm not about to debate. I said what I said. I just thought it was corny bringing up rent, so I defended my mans. I think that was more of an actual question than throwing shade from McGee, so that's theory. Either way, this blackballing claim has been going around a while. It's so laughably untrue. You really think pro players got around and have a pact to never pick Parasite up? Nah, dog, nobody is saying it. Sadanacal 50 deep and made a pact. Stop acting like you still don't see this stuff. Man, he got dropped earlier this year for DMing his teammate's girl mid-tournament. Down. That was an entertaining time. Stop acting like he's a victim in this. Nobody is blackballing him. Maybe, just maybe, people don't like playing with him. Did I not say that his outside of the game actions play a part? To be fair, he did. You just have to throw that in there. That's the stuff I'm talking about. It's lame AF. So where is the blackballing? People don't want to play with him, and people don't think he's that good. If he was that good, people would deal with his outside of the game actions. Parasite then comes back with, I'm better than a ton of people. Do you watch me play or what I do to mold teams and players into contenders with lackluster talent and throwaway teams? Bro, I was just trying to keep it real because I'm tired of this blackball fake storyline. You haven't qualified for the Pro League in years. Also, the Midnight Esports roster last year, he got picked up, didn't have to qualify. I didn't realize there was just one player on a team, bro. So, well, that was quite the ride. So let's have a quick look through Parasite's career here, because of course, a world champion for Black Ops 2. If you guys don't know, Parasite on that Freako Impact Dynasty back in the day, definitely a very talented and skilled player over many years. But outside of the game, things and team chemistry has always played a part in his, I suppose, downfall over the last few years to no longer being on a professional league team as he is now in the CDL. This is how his story really looked from the World War II days. Early on Ground Zero, they actually played with Embos early on before Study came in, so that's maybe why there's a bit of camaraderie here. Then, of course, this Complexity team later on, he played with Dashi, of course, and Fellow went on to do decent things with the United. And then Dashi, of course, has taken things to a next level recently with the Optigaming team in Black Ops 4 and since then. Then moving on, of course, late season, we go on to the Ghost Gaming team. He plays with GodRx and Panda. Lacefield, of course, bit of an OG at this point, but GodRx and Panda, you know, have come up since and played on this, well, of course, GodRx on the Minnesota team, Panda on the Seattle team, now both in starting lineups. Then we look in the Black Ops 4 season, and he played early on with GodRx Panda again on the Pittsburgh Knights team that was around at the time. Theory was still around at this point. Played with a lot of different players here. Of course, we had the Midnight Esports team with Blast on it and all that kind of stuff. Then we go into the Modern Warfare season. He's played with, like, you know, he's played with a number of different players this season. But what you'll see in a lot of these teams that obviously do break apart quite a fair bit, but you'll see some names like Drazza, for example, that he played with a tournament here that have since come up and done good things. Like, he played with them for a couple of events here, like Drazza for a little while. Now it looks like he's going to go on and be on this pro team on the Optic Gaming squad. And then even more recently than that, he's played with people like Fire, Paul X, this current team that they're playing with Goonjar and Exotic. And these are guys that could be the next type of talents to break out. Fire especially, I think, is a very solid player that could take things to another level for certain Pro League teams. So definitely an interesting discussion. I think that Parasite has definitely done a good job, as he said, in bringing up some younger talent, but he just doesn't get that opportunity to go into the starting lineup anymore, even though he's talented, because bridges have been burned, right? And this is a discussion we've talked about for a while. But, there's obviously always two sides to the story. We don't always hear it. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down below, as always. Just to finish up the video, I wanted to point this out from last night. I believe the Huntsmen were scrimming against Optic Gaming. This new Optic Gaming with Drazza, as we just talked about, coming up with Parasite over the course of this season for a few events at least, with Hollow in the team as well now as their second assault rifle. Interesting set of scrims, I believe. I think it was 3-2 to the Huntsmen in the end, but Optic definitely looked solid. There's another video coming out later today on accuracy, talking about some pro players and laziness and this type of thing, and in that video he discusses that, well, Optic are 30 times the team they used to be since dropping Dashi and Chino to the bench. So definitely intriguing to see how this Optic Gaming team will fare for the rest of the season, because they've got a difficult time to, well, keep ahead of those bottom four in the Pro League. I think that Optic right now are in 8th place, but they're just above Toronto. I think that Toronto can certainly get out of that, and, well, who knows, right, where exactly Optic Gaming Los Angeles will sit at the end of the season. I think they definitely need to have a decent result this weekend if they're going to make that work and stay out of the losers bracket when we come to the World Championship. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.